Hey guys, welcome back to another video and thank you so much for joining me today. As you can see from the title, today we are talking about my 5 reasons to not move to New Zealand. So let's just get a few things out of the way. I'm not saying New Zealand is any kind of horrible place to live or that I hate living here or anything like that. This is more of a list for people who are considering moving here and maybe have been a bit led astray. Maybe you haven't been told the full truth about what it's like actually living here. So my partner and I have been living in New Zealand for the last 5 months on a working holiday visa, and these are the things that stand out the most to me as a Canadian living abroad. So number 1 on this list, and it's not in any kind of official order, but the first thing I have on the list is lack of insulation. And we have a little sponsor for this portion of today's video. So thank you so much to the Oodie. So as we're talking about, it's pretty chilly in New Zealand without having insulation. Even if you have a heat pump and things, it gets really cold inside. So something like an Oodie is absolutely perfect for a New Zealand winter or for camping or for any time you want to be cozy and cuddled up. The Oodie is an Australian-born company. They have so many cute designs, you guys. They have all different kinds. Oodies are flannel fleece on the outside and Sherpa fleece on the inside to keep you super toasty and cozy and warm. Is this a cucumber and this is a pickle? The Oodie has been kind enough to give you guys a discount code if you're interested in getting an Oodie for yourself. I'll put the discount code right here and also in the description. But again, thank you so much to the Oodie for sponsoring this portion of the video, and let's get back into it. And if you don't know, a lot of the older homes or rental properties in New Zealand do not have any kind of insulation in the walls or the windows. Where I'm from in Canada, it gets so cold that it's literally a requirement to have an insulated home. But here in New Zealand, it gets chilly, but it doesn't get cold to the point where your building infrastructure, like water piping, would be bursting without insulation. So it's not really a thing here. I would love to delve into the history about why it isn't, but we don't have time for that today. Maybe that's another video in the future. Because the homes are not typically insulated, it means that they're pretty chilly in the winter on the inside, and then in the summer, they're super hot. So I'll just walk you through an example. The place that we're in right now in Christchurch is a unit that's built onto a house. It's not insulated. We have a plug-in electric heater for the living room, and then there's one in the bedroom. This unit faces north, so we get a lot of sun. It gets extremely hot. I would say maybe 25 degrees when the sun is actually shining on the unit. And then at night, it goes down to pretty much whatever temperature it is outside. It's a little bit like living in a camper van, I imagine, where you're so susceptible to the temperatures outside. It's hard to keep a consistent, livable temperature inside. Coming from a country like Canada that has central heating, this was definitely an adjustment for my partner and I. You'll notice that heated blankets are a big thing here. A lot of rentals, Airbnbs and things like that, even motels and hotels will have heated blankets that are fitted on the actual mattress. So those are plugged in and you have 3 different levels. You can turn them low, medium, and high, and it gets the bed like nice and toasty because it's so dang cold inside these houses. Depending on where you are in the country, especially if you're on the South Island, you're going to need a bunch of blankets, sweaters, socks, thick socks, slippers, like all the things that you need to keep warm. Essentially, if you're camping, the things you're going to bring for the nighttime camping, you're going to need in the winter in New Zealand. The second reason that I don't recommend moving to New Zealand is the cost of living. Housing is crazy expensive. The average cost of a home in New Zealand is $780,000 to $980,000. The average rent in New Zealand is over $600 per week. Now, of course, this is really region dependent. Any of the bigger cities, you're going to get higher prices in buying a home and renting a home. But the cost of living compared to point number 3 is where it really gets fishy. Now, of course, this is happening all across the world. Every major city is going through these massive inflation rates. Rent is crazy expensive. Housing is crazy expensive. But I do feel like New Zealand has a bit of an edge in terms of affordability. I think it's a little more expensive to live here and to rent or buy a house than other countries. Gas is extremely expensive. Lately, we've been seeing it at $2.70 a liter. So on average, if you have a smaller car like we do, it's about 100 New Zealand dollars to fill it. We also find that buying groceries here is quite a bit more expensive than back in Canada. we on average spend $200 to $300 more per month. And we pretty much always shop the sales. We always make sure we get like 90% of what we're getting on sale and meal plan around whatever the specials are. And another thing on the cost of living is that craft beer is really expensive in New Zealand. So my partner and I are huge into craft beer. We love the scene. We love supporting these local breweries. But sometimes in New Zealand, it's a little difficult because buying a 6-pack of beer can be between $22 and $32. And that's for small cans of 330 milliliters. One of the reasons I've heard that craft beer here is so expensive is that the little breweries have to pay the same amount of alcohol tax as the big breweries. So of course it means that they have to put their prices up in order to afford to continue their operation. This is unfortunately a downside because it kind of forces you, if you're on a budget, to buy the beer from the bigger companies simply because they can afford to drop their prices so low. Now, I don't drink a whole lot, but I do like to indulge in a craft beer every once in a while. And if you're going to buy like one single tall can, sometimes they can be like $10, which to me is quite expensive. Number 3 on this list is low wages. We hear it from locals on the internet. We hear it from locals who actually live here, but Kiwis on average get paid less than their Australian counterparts. And that's probably the biggest reason why so many Kiwis move to Australia. On average, Australian workers make $20,000 to $30,000 more than their Kiwi counterparts. And I'll leave a reference link in the description below of the New Zealand Herald article that I read where it stated that information because that is wild. I was personally offered a role at a much lower wage than I was expecting, and it turns out that the average salary for that job is actually just over $50,000 per year. New Zealand dollars, so Canadian equivalent's about $41,000 a year. That's really close to their minimum wage, which is $22.70 an hour. Coupled with the extremely high cost of living in New Zealand, this makes it almost impossible to live in this country on a single income. That means you need to either live with roommates or you and your partner both need to be working, whether or not you have children. Or one of you needs to be making a lot of money. Number 4 on this list is driving. The majority of the roads are pretty decent, especially the major highways, any highway that has more than one lane. It's easy breezy, no problem, but the majority of the roads outside of that are very narrow and very windy. Drivers in New Zealand speed like crazy. You'll see constant commercials here and billboards telling people to slow down, which probably speaks for itself that this is clearly a problem in this country. You'll hear people here refer to the road toll, which is the number of deaths caused by road collisions. And that was 378 people in 2022. About 7.8 people per 100,000 die from road collisions. To compare, Canada is at 5.8, according to the Wikipedia page that I looked at. I'll link it down below if you want to research further. It can be very stressful to drive here. And I've mentioned in previous videos, if you are driving here on the roads and you're not super comfortable, pull over and let people behind you pass. This is by far the safest thing to do because the people behind you, if you're not going to move out of their way, they may attempt to pass you when it is not safe, and that can cause a whole lot of bad things. So this is a big detractor for me. A lot of people had mentioned that driving here was stressful and a little crazy, but I didn't realize that it's actually legitimately dangerous to drive here. More dangerous than driving back in Canada. Of course, the ideal situation is that you come here and you live somewhere where you don't even need a car. That would be great. Number 5 is that it can be a little bit difficult to find full-time permanent work. So on the visa that I'm currently on, which is the working holiday visa, I am not allowed to accept permanent work, period. A lot of the job postings that I've been seeing in different cities state that it's a permanent position and that they do not accept applications from overseas or from people who are on a working holiday visa. A lot of companies will not hire someone who is on that kind of a visa, especially for a longer term, more serious position. A lot of the companies do not want to pay the fees in order to support someone moving here to get all their visa paperwork done and to sponsor them. I've applied to a few jobs and I did get a response from someone who pretty much verbatim said that they would not hire someone who needed any kind of support for a visa or that didn't want to live here permanently for the rest of their life. There's a lot of information about there about how easy it is to get a backpacker job here. And I personally haven't seen many of those jobs. When they do come up, it seems like they're filled pretty quickly. If you're like me and you're over 30 years old and you're looking for a more traditional job, whether you're here for a year or 2 years or longer, it can be a little bit difficult unless you have a really in-need skill. I know that most countries have a list of things that they're looking for, and if you have any of those skills, I think it'd be a lot easier for you if you wanted to move here permanently. So those are my 5 reasons why I would not move to New Zealand. Every country has its pros and its cons, and for me, these are the top 5 that would make me not want to live here for the long term. It's still an absolutely amazing country. It's beautiful. It's so incredible to be able to travel here and spend the next year working and living and traveling. But I wanted to make this video to let you guys know, if you're looking at moving here, maybe even looking at moving here permanently, that you're aware of the risks and aware of the things that aren't so great. If you have anything you'd like to add to this video, if you have any detractors that you want others to know, definitely leave me a comment down below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys really soon in the next video. Bye.